Crowhill here. Today we review a stout and discuss a short American novel from the 1950s. Hey, good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. Crowhill
and Longinus.
There's
Good.
Longinus.
Fantastic.
Very good. How about some beer and conversation?
Absolutely. What's on your mind?
Allie, Phoebe,
Yeah.
DB, and Holden.
I see. It must be time for P&C's shortcut to the classics.
Yes, it is. It's where we read great books by the great authors, just provided they're not too long.
Yeah, well, we got close this
Yeah,
time. But
that's
that's right. And for today, you chose
Yes.
Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger.
I did. Yes. So this is 200 pages. It's a little long for shortcut standards.
Well, it's longer than that in our edition, but yeah, okay. All right, so what are we drinking?
Well, this is a Christmas time beer.
Very
it's Great Lakes Milk Stout. I get the feeling that they do a cookie series, and this one is a raspberry something cookie, a rotating cookie inspired series, 5.5%. I tell you what, I could smell that thing from over here. It smells like cold cookies. What are you getting?
Well, I'm getting the raspberry for sure.
I'm getting the raspberry and the cookie smell, and
I'm not getting the cookie smell, but my sense of smell might not be as good today for various reasons.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and definitely the raspberry.
Yeah.
So it's a raspberry flavored cookie beer, and it's 5.5%.
All
and
right.
It's very festive.
Very good.
And
very nice
for this Christmas time of year,
Yeah.
which is
part of why you chose Catcher in the Rye.
yes. I said, well, what's a Christmas? I couldn't find another decent Christmas book.
Right.
I'm like, well, what about something wintry anyway? And then I was like, wait a minute, doesn't Holden get kicked out of school right before Christmas? Yeah. Basically today. It's like, right? 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
It feels like it's... And so he's in New York and getting kicked out. So, how about if we just do a little bit of bio on Mr. Salinger?
Sure.
all right. I just would like to just say this was I just finished reading the biography by Kenneth Slawinski. I just want to give him credit for all this. I'm not a Holden scholar at all. I just finished reading the biography. Anyway, real quickly here to talk about it. First thing I'd just like to say, and probably the last thing I'd like to say too, is that Holden Caulfield is of J.D. Salinger, but J.D. Salinger is so much more than Holden Caulfield, which this biography will give you. He was born in 1919, died in 2010 at the age of 91, grew up in New York City. His family was actually very fortunate and kept on climbing the economic ladder even during the Depression. So by the time he gets to be a teenager, he is living in the Upper West Side and he gets pulled out of public schools and he goes to a private school, which he quickly fails out of within a year. His parents are extremely distraught about that and decide that he needs a little bit more discipline. So he sends him to the Valley Forge Military School, which I guess is pretty famous.
Right.
And believe it or not, he thrived.
Okay.
And that's something that we really got to think about. I mean, I heard a couple of podcasts that said he flunked out, but no, he thrived. He actually wrote the class song when he graduated in 1936, and he used his Valley Forge connections when he joined the Army. After graduation, he went to NYU, promptly failed out, went to Europe. He went to Europe to work for his father, was in the meat and cheese business, so he was there as a representative to his father's meat and cheese business. Fell in love with a girl in which her family, Holden was staying with her family at the time. He comes back to New York in 1938. Also, just to know is he went after World War II. He went to try to find that girl, to try to find that family, and they were totally wiped out in World War II.
Wow. Yeah, that's tough.
So,
but you can't skip over World War II because he was a badass.
Well, we're on 1939.
Okay.
Yeah. 1939, he goes to Columbia University. Promptly, and 37, he goes to NYU, fails, goes to Europe, comes back and goes to a small little college called Ursinus College. Spends a year there because he just wanted to go to college. Leaves there. 39, goes to Columbia University and takes a short story class by from a professor named Whit Burnett, who is also a prominent author and the editor of Story Magazine, and that's where he finds his first mentor. 1941, he leaves New York City, jumps on a cruise ship as part of the entertainment staff, does that for a few months, tries to join the Army, gets rejected because he had a small heart defect. 42, though, they were looking for people, and he joined and was accepted. And he spent 42 to about 44 or 45 he spent in the United States. In 44, he joins the Counterintelligence Corps and actually spends several months at Fort Holabird in Maryland, which is close to us in Dundalk. At that time, it was the place where they built Jeeps. In 1944, he was assigned to the 12th Regiment, goes over to England, starts doing his training. The Counterintelligence Corps was responsible to make sure that if there were any traitors along the things or anybody was trying to give out any secrets, it was his responsibility to root them out and bring them to the higher-ups. But he was on the spear tip of D-Day, survives that, jumps right into the Battle of the Bulge, and survives that. And right as the war was ended, he was at the tip of discovering the concentration camps.
Boy.
And because of his job, he was partly responsible for sort of preserving and documenting those concentration camps. So, in the face of that horror, his whole life and his whole look at life changes.
I imagine.
But and we could talk later about that. He comes back to New York and slowly, story by story, gets short story by short story gets published. He's talking about writing a book. We all know that book was Catcher in the Rye. 1951, Catcher in the Rye is a smashing success, and he becomes world famous. I wouldn't say almost overnight, but in a few months, selling more and more of those books, and the sales never have stopped. Two other things before I stop. 1980. Does anybody remember what happens in 1980? Mark David Chapman.
Oh, yeah.
Assassinates John Lennon and then sits on the stool and reads Catcher in the Rye.
I didn't know that detail.
And in the book, he inscribes, "This is my testimony," meaning that the book Catcher in the Rye was my testimony of why I killed John Lennon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. 4 months later, John Hinckley shows up and attempts to assassinate Ronald Reagan. And in Hinckley's hotel room, of course, they find a copy of The Catcher in the Rye.
Okay, so all right, let's get into it here. I'm just gonna do everybody should have read it. I'm not gonna tell you what happens because you should know it. If you don't, go read it. But
I'm not going to give you that David Copperfield crap.
But very quickly, young Holden Caulfield, I guess he's about 16 or so, right? He's in private school, gets kicked out. He says he's going to tell you what happened, and the whole thing takes place in about 3 days, right?
Yeah.
He gets kicked. He gets kicked out. He goes to New York, where he's from. So the school, I think, is in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
He leaves before the end of the semester, but he doesn't want to go home because he doesn't want them to know he's got kicked out of another school. And he has a series of adventures with friends, strangers, adults, former teacher, and goes to see his sister. Talks about his sisters. He talks about his brothers and sisters.
Right.
He sneaks in to go see her one night. They have a conversation. Sneaks back out, and the next day he sees her and they go on a carousel and then
go to the museum. Yeah.
Go to the museum and as far as events go, that's not very plot driven.
No.
Which is what I want to get at. So books are dominated by one of many things. It could be character driven, right? It could be thematic or intellectual. It's all about the ideas of the book. It could be about the setting and scenery and whatever. this to me. There's no book that is more indicative of represented by tone. It's attitude and tone and voice and perspective from the author, who is, this is all first person, and that is sort of what is unique, the unique tone and the unique the adolescent angst. This is 1951. So you've got angst, alienation. This is what sort of drives the book, and is the feeling throughout. And it's it's got a unique sound and tone. Now, I would say the first thing that comes to mind that I did not get when I first blasted through the first page, that he's really writing from a mental institution of some kind. Yeah. Right. He's saying,
he's out in California at the mental institution.
Right. He's like, I'm not going to. Right. What did he say? I'm not going to tell you my whole goddamn life story. But basically, I'll tell you how I got here. Right. So he just sort of revisits those 3 days, and let's visit those 3 days.
Yeah, and I mean, you're absolutely right. What is so constant and what is so beautifully described is that adolescent, anxious mind and thoughts and way that they're thinking. And adolescence is such an important part of 50s. It's really where adolescent, quote unquote, grew up. It was the place where, the idea of teenagers really came to be.
Yes.
And we sort of,
That's actually a really good point. That before, there didn't used to be teenagers, and we didn't classify them separate. You were a child or you were an adult.
Yeah, yes.
And children were young adults.
Yes. And you didn't have this idea of teenagers as being some particularly important segment of society.
Yes.
So right. So I just want to read one of my favorite quotes here, which really sort of capture. So Holden visits an old a teacher at Pensy, which is a place that he got kicked out of. This is when he hasn't left for New York yet.
Right.
So he goes and he visits him, and they have a conversation. Of course, all the adults are concerned about him. But then he says, "That's what I mean. You take somebody old as hell, like old Spencer, and they can get a big bang out of buying a blanket." And every page has something like that, all that drives you through. Almost to the point where you get tired of. I mean, as a 59-year-old adult, you get tired of being in this book because you get tired of being an adolescent, and you're like, thank God I'm not a teenager anymore.
Yeah, but so I don't think that Holden represents all adolescence. So it's definitely about teenage angst,
right?
But I don't think that all adolescents are anywhere near as self-reflective or as obsessive or as negative as he is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't represent all teenagers. It just represents kind of a slice of teenager life.
Well, no, but even the ones that are nothing like Holden know a little bit about what Holden's saying.
Sure.
So I'm saying he's maybe at the extreme end of what is relatable to most.
Right.
Yeah, now there are 4 descriptors that are used throughout, and I think this captures it. Everything is either depressing, phony, corny, or boring.
Yes.
And just keep that in mind, that every page has at least one reference of one of those words.
You get tired of the word phony.
Yeah. But I get it. We'll get to it.
Yeah, and as we move forward, one of the major themes of here is, of course, growing up, moving from childhood to adulthood. And actually, in this book, I would suggest that he starts to do that.
He jumps in very quickly. He seems. And I don't know if this is Holden or if this is just a product of the times, where Phoebe walking around the park by herself in New York City, a young man taking cabs a 16-year-old taking cabs, going in, drinking scotch and sodas, just confidently taking trains.
Yeah.
At 16, I think I think it is more a 1950s thing.
Well, I think also it's a city thing. That if you grew up in New York, then you had to take cabs, you had to take trains, you had to do that kind of stuff. So I think there was an enforced adult responsibility just for anybody who was living in the city at that time.
Yes, but right. So it's a combination of the age and right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, so he has this. So he's with his roommates. There's a lot of elitism. He's from a wealthy family and can barely. He's been in and out of other expensive prep schools, and so that is his world.
Yeah.
You get the sense of his wealth without him really talking about it, because it's just so part of who he is. That whole scene about God, I can't stand a guy who has cheap suitcases.
Yeah.
And even felt bad about it, like he hid his suitcase so his suitcase wouldn't be next to the other guy's crappy suitcase.
To make him feel bad.
And
then the other guy
would bring people in to say, you got to see my roommate's suitcases.
Yeah, and then he criticized the nuns for having. And he didn't criticize them; he just felt bad. For them
Yes,
right.
having
He
the
felt
crappy
terrible.
suitcases. Yeah.
I mean, he criticizes everybody except for his dead brother Allie,
Yeah.
Phoebe,
Yeah.
and the nuns. He's sort of neutral on.
And his older brother, DB, I love it. And this book is from a million years ago, and I've got a little question mark in here. I'm like, what does he mean by that? My brother, now he's out in, so he's a writer. Now he's out in Hollywood, DB, being a prostitute. And I've got a little question mark. I'm like, what the hell does he mean by that?
Yeah.
Well, what he means is that there's real writing, and then there's writing for movies, which he hates. And that his brother is out there writing for movies, which is basically being a prostitute.
Yeah, later on in the book, he says how he feels sorry for people who go to movies because they like the movies. But
he always goes to the movies.
Yeah, well, in his
know.
mind, going to the movies is just a way to waste some time between one thing and another.
Yeah. But that's he reveals himself to be depressing, phony, corny, and boring.
Right.
Without. Well, he does have a lot of self-reflection. He does criticize himself and recognizes that I'm a madman, and so he has this fight with a roommate, and says, "All right, I'm out of here. I'm going to New York." He's not going to go straight home, but he's got some dough, so he checks into a hotel.
He had actually quite a lot of money.
Yeah,
so
you did.
The amount I looked this up, $10 in 1951 is like the factor is like 12 times.
Right.
So $10 would be like $120.
Yeah. I mean, Sorry. So he had like $150. So
right.
You're
He had a
talking
lot of money.
$1,500 or
He had
something
a lot of
like
money
that.
in his pocket. Yeah.
So he gets on the train and he runs into a classmate's mother.
Yes.
And
tries to pick her up.
well, he can't stand the kid.
Yeah.
But he talks the kid up about, and the kid is very unpopular. He's kind of a goof, and he's like, man, your son, whatever his name is, everybody likes that kid.
This was a classic clash between two aspects of his character. Because on the one hand, he hates everything phony.
Yes.
But on the other hand, he has a huge amount of empathy and feels sorry for everybody.
Yes.
So he feels sorry for the mother because her son is a doof, but his empathy pushes him to talk him up and speak as if he was a nice guy.
100%. So you would.
Right.
I think it's hard for him to recognize those qualities that he faults in everybody else are taking place in himself too. And later on in the book, he really comes across as kind of a boring jerk.
Yeah, he's an adolescent. I mean, that's what all adolescents did. I mean, it was always. It's not my fault. It's their fault.
Everybody else
always
is a
try
jerk.
to rationalize. Always try to justify everything.
Yep.
And that's and that's what he captures so well is that moment in time when we're sort of expanding our territory of where we go and what we know, and rub up against and use all these techniques to, survive, or not even survive, but feel good about it, or survive is probably the best word for it.
Yeah. So he goes to he goes into a nightclub, gets some drinks, dances with some girls, right? And then he thinks about his old gal, Jane Gallagher.
Yeah.
He's going to call her up. Then
Jane was the reason for the fight in the school before he left, too.
Right.
Yes.
His roommate ended up...
Because his roommate was dating her, or went out on a date with her, anyway. Right. And Holden was really upset that his roommate, who was kind of a cad, apparently, was going out with Jane, who he thought of as this great girl.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's thinking about it. And then there's really not a lot of dialogue in here, but when it is, it's so good. I kind of almost wish that he had done a little bit more, Salinger. But so here's a little interaction. He's in the cab, just to kind of give you a sense of where his mind is. Like he's where everybody else he thinks just cares about money and cars and whatever. And so the cab driver's name is Horwitz, and you're going to help me out here, Longinus.
Sure will. Yeah.
All right, I'll be.
Be Holden.
I'll be Holden. You be Horwitz.
All right.
Hey, Horwitz, you ever pass the lagoon in Central Park, down by Central Park South?
The what?
The lagoon, that little lake, like there, where the ducks are,
Yeah. What about it?
Well, the ducks swim around in it in springtime and all. Do you happen to know where they go in the wintertime by any chance?
Where who goes?
The ducks, do you know by any chance? I mean, does someone come around in a truck or something and take them away, or they fly by themselves, go south or something? Well, old Horowitz turned all the way around and looked at me. He was a very impatient type guy, and he was the bad guy. He wasn't a bad guy, though.
How the hell should I know? How the hell should I know a stupid thing like that?
Well, don't get sore about it.
Who's sore? Nobody's sore.
Well, I don't know. That little interaction just seems so fun. Like here he is. He's just trying to have an adult connection, I guess. And that guy just shoots him down.
Well, let's move on with the plot summary.
Okay, yeah. So he gets a room, and then Maurice, is it, that comes up and asks?
Maurice is the pimp.
The elevator man.
Right.
Asks him, if he wants some company.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. He tells it's $5 a night or 15 till tomorrow at noon or something like that.
Yeah.
And he says, "All right, I'll take the $5."
Mm-hmm.
And she comes in there. She says, they woke me up for this. So are we gonna do it or what? He's like, yeah.
And he's just not interested.
No.
And he gets into this whole thing like, I can't do this unless I'm really interested in you, and I'm not. So it's a very interesting reflection on the way an adolescent might feel about intimacy,
Yeah, and I mean, he's right. He's not. First off, he's just like an adolescent. He would kind of brag about how much action he's getting, while admitting he really doesn't know anything about any action. So so she ends up when he pays her the $5.
Yeah.
She leaves, and before he can leave the place, Maurice shows up.
Yeah, you owe me 10. You owe me 5 more.
Yeah,
it was 10. Yeah.
He wasn't having it.
Right. And he gets beat up over it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he pretends he's been shot, or in his own mind, he feels like he needs to pantomime.
And he keeps talking about that later in the story, about the bullet in his stomach.
Yes, he got the bullet, right, after he really starts to lose it towards the end there. And he goes back to this story where he's going down the staircase, and Rocky, he got me this time. which is just like a B-movie scene of the movies that he hates, and yet he has, he's absorbed.
Yeah, he's a kid. He's a kid playing out scenarios. He's a kid being a kid, really.
Right. So he's very grown up, just the way he moves about, and goes into nightclubs and whatever. But all in all, he's still 16, and at 16, you're at 16, you're somewhere between 12 and 20. I mean, you're literally between 12 and 20, but even mentally and emotionally, you're kind of back and forth between the two. And I think that just seemed real indicative of that. Now so then he has the breakfast with the two nuns, and
Just by
kind of
accident,
feels
he's
just
at the
kind
train
of
station
feels guilty.
and it's just next to him. Yeah,
And he's like, they're having this crummy breakfast,
right.
And he tries to give them money,
Right.
And they're like, well, we're they're right. That was the crappy suitcases. They had these wicker basket suitcases, and he says, right. So, well, you guys taking donations? I mean, he's already talked about the Salvation Army people that are out there. No, we are here in case you do.
Yeah. So he's trying to give them money. He tries to buy their breakfast. And
Yeah.
They're like, you're very nice, but come on, cut it out. Yeah. So it was an interesting scene because, generally speaking, he's down on everything.
Yeah.
But he actually kind of liked the nuns.
He did. Yeah. Right. He references them later. Now he. So what? Then he goes by the Museum of Natural History, right? How does he get to the?
He's going to meet
His girlfriend.
Sally, right?
Yeah, a different girlfriend, not Jane, but Sally, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And he has time to kill, so he goes to the museum thinking he might run into Phoebe, but he doesn't.
That's what it is.
Right.
And he
That's
runs
what
into
it
those
is.
kids who want to see where the mummies are.
So they ask him, and then he doesn't go in, but he does start reminiscing about all the times that he did go when he was Phoebe's age and whatever. And when I was reading this was like one of the first times that I read the book 30 years ago, and I was like, you know what? That's one of the things that really has stood with me the whole time is the dioramas and the Eskimo fishing and
me too.
His reaction that he loved knowing that it would always be exactly the same.
Yeah. That Eskimo would always be there fishing.
Yes,
for
those
that same
birds
fish,
would always
right?
be flying. He would always be sitting over the hole in this ice lake.
Something stable in his world.
He says, you would be different, but this would always be the same. And there was a certain, you're really never too.
So he says the best thing, though, in that museum was that everything always stayed right where it was.
Yes.
Nobody moved. You could go there 100,000 times, and that Eskimo would still be finished catching those two fishes. The birds would still be on their way south. The deer would still be drinking out of the water hole. And their pretty antlers and their pretty skinny legs and the squaw with the naked bosom would still be weaving that same blanket. Nobody would be different. The only thing that would be different would be you.
Yes. So it's interesting. You think of nostalgia and preserving innocence as something maybe an older person would do, but I mean, young people do it too, right? A 5-year-old could go, I remember the first time we went on those swings last year, right? Yeah. But the idea of reminiscing and preserving a memory.
But everybody likes things to be stable.
Yeah.
This is where I was just today asking my granddaughter, where do we put the Christmas tree? Well, we always put it over there.
Yeah.
Right. So it's there is this idea of things being stable and reliable, and that's important emotionally and kind of to give you a foundation.
Right. So right. This is on his way to meet
Sally.
But hold on, before I get there, I just like the way that this came off. So he's waiting for he's early, and he's waiting for her in a hotel lobby, and there's a bunch of girls going in and out because they're on vacation. Girls with their legs crossed, girls with their legs not crossed, girls with terrific legs, girls with lousy legs, girls that look like swell girls, and girls that look like they'd be bitches if you knew them. It was really interesting, if you know what I mean. In a way, it was sort of depressing, too, because you kept wondering what the hell would happen to all of them when they got out of school and college, I mean. You figure most of them would probably marry dopey guys that always talk about how many miles did they get to the gal in their goddamn cars. And he just goes on and on about how awful these guys are. This is these hypothetical girls with these hypothetical guys. Yes. He immediately jumps into, what a bunch of jerks they are. Guys are extremely boring who never read anything. He goes, guys that get sore and childish as hell if you beat them at golf, or even some stupid game like ping pong. Guys that are very mean. So he just launches into sort of his general idea of like the frat bros who do well, who get the hot chicks, who go on to have cool cars. He just sees all of that as, phony and
shallow.
Yes. Yeah. However, he reveals himself to be kind of phony and shallow himself.
Yeah.
Very soon.
Right. So he goes out to he picks up Sally.
Yeah.
He goes to see a show.
Right.
They go see a show, and then they go to Rockefeller Center.
And of course,
to
he
go ice
criticizes
skating.
the whole thing. And as you know,
But
as you
before they go to Rockefeller Center, Sally runs into some friend that she met.
Yeah.
And Holden thinks that guy's phony.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Oh, this was the other. So this is number 2. For some reason, I've thought about this my whole life. It's just one line. He's talking about this guy, and he says he was the kind of phony guy that have to give themselves room when they answer somebody's question. And I always think of it, right? The guy that kind of steps back because everybody, to allow an audience to form, that I can share my opinion, and I see that phony SOB and think of Holden every time. The guy that needs to, he needs a little room to express himself.
Yeah.
So
he says about Harris Macklin. He's talking about somebody else, but on that same line, he says he never stopped talking, and that was awful. And what was awful was he never said anything you wanted to hear in the first place.
That was the guy who whistled really well too, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So hold on. I got. There's one I had to get to earlier. 87. In terms of being phony, right? So he meets this couple. The guy was in the Navy guy. The Navy guy and I told each other we were glad to have met each other, which always kills me. I'm always saying glad to have met you to somebody I'm not at all glad I met. If you want to stay alive, you have to say that stuff, though.
Yeah.
Right? So he's sort of recognizing.
Yeah.
And that's part of
maybe it's too early to talk about this, but that I think is a key part of the whole, because he's talking about, when you're trying to transition from a life where you're basically doing and thinking and saying what you mean and what you feel into a life where that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
To be an adult in society, you have to tell little white lies. You have to
tell somebody they look nice.
You got to compromise.
Shake hands. Look a man in the eye. You can't just be a dopey teenager
You've got
anymore.
to be what he would consider phony.
Right.
And he's trying to come to terms with that.
Yeah.
That growing up means being phony.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So poor Sally. They go and that's when he starts in with the let's just run away.
Mm-hmm. Right. So he's right.
What about this? Listen to this is where you really get that he's
still 12.
He's off his rocker.
Yes, right.
He's spiraling downward.
He's spiraling downward. And, yes, and sort of having 12-year-old fantasies of what is possible in life while becoming old enough to recognize that's not really possible. Right. I mean, conflicting with that. What do you got?
Well, I got it here if you want me to. Look, I said, here's my idea. How would you like to get the hell out of here? Here's my idea. I know the guy down in Greenwich Village that we can borrow his car for a couple of weeks. We used to go to the same school I did, and he still owes me $10. What we could do is tomorrow morning we could drive up to Massachusetts and Vermont and all around there. See, it's beautiful as hell up there. It really is. It was getting excited as hell. The more I thought about it, and I sort of reached over and took old Sally's goddamn hand. What a goddamn fool I was. No kidding, I said. I have about $180 in the bank. I can take it out, and when it opens in the morning, and then we could go down and get this guy's car. No kidding. We'll stay in these cabin camps and stuff like that until the dough runs out. When the dough runs out, I could get a job in somewhere, and we could live somewhere in Brook Hall, and later on we could get married or something. We could chop all our wood in the wintertime and all. Honest to God, we could have a terrific time. What do you say? Come on, what do you say? What will you do with me? Will you do it with me, please?
And this is a girl he doesn't even particularly like.
And she says, you just can't do something like that. So, which is just perfect. You know?
It is.
And he didn't particularly even like this girl. Earlier on, he's complaining about her.
No, he's complaining about her, and then he sees her and says she looks fantastic. He goes, you know what? I could marry her.
Yeah.
Right?
Because
but I don't really like her.
there's a side of him that everything is just in that moment.
Yeah.
But there's another side of him which is ridiculously introspective and overly critical about everything. Yeah.
Right.
So he's both those things playing at the same time.
So
then this is where he kind of exposes himself, I think, where he's with the Carl Luce guy who was older than him, went to Columbia,
Right.
And now they're sitting
right.
down together, and that whole thing, he's really just reveals his immaturity because he wants to hear about all the action that
right.
Carl's getting. And the guy's like, just chill. I mean, really, that's enough.
Relax, he says. Just sit back and relax, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
I am relaxed, I said. How's Columbia? You like it? Certainly I like it. What are you majoring in? I asked him. Perverts?
Yeah, right. This is just like totally
that's,
adolescent sex jokes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, he finds out she's Chinese. Yeah.
That the guy's
The guy's girlfriend is
Luce's
Chinese. And
girlfriend
now
is
he's just making a bunch of
But
adolescent comments.
I thought it was very interesting that what Luce says was that typical Caulfield questions.
Yes.
In other words, this was like part of his character was just to ask these rude, obnoxious, prying.
Exactly. This
questions.
This is not Holden being odd and weird because he's drunk or got kicked out of school or whatever.
This is him.
This
Right.
is him.
This is him.
Right.
Oh
But-
God! Not these Caulfield questions.
Right, but the big difference is, right, old Luce has grown up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So he's drunk and he's freezing cold, and now he's worried to death about catching pneumonia and dying, and then complaining about what his funeral would be like. But at this point in his mind, he'd be living in some cabin in California or Colorado, and he's imagining what people would be saying, how he doesn't want a funeral, he doesn't want a bunch of stupid people walking over his grave. Just the mental spiral that he's down, and then he decides he is going to. He tried to see Phoebe during the day, right? I think hoped he would just catch her at the park, and now he's going to sneak up to his own house.
Yeah.
But it really get a sense of it. So you've got an all-night elevator guy,
Right.
and a live-in maid.
Yes.
And you're like,
So they got some money. And they're-
Yes, this is not, anybody who has like a daily maid or even a weekly house cleaner has got some money. No. She lives there.
Yeah.
Right.
So he sneaks in, wakes Phoebe.
Yeah. And they have a long
How's that go?
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Phoebe is, what is she, 10?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. And she's much more grounded than
Right.
Holden
Furious
is.
about him being kicked out of another school. You're
Right.
going to be in so much trouble,
Yeah,
and
she
that's
figures out-
that really bothers him the most.
Yeah.
I
That
almost
bothers
see
her
this
the
as the climax of the book.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
But I don't.
Well, he's been talking her up. He's been talking her up the whole book. Holden has been talking up his sister Phoebe the whole book, and then now we finally meet her, and it's in this strange middle of the night meeting, trying to sneak past his parents because he doesn't want them to know. So it's a weird scene.
And smokes a cigarette in her room.
Right? Yes.
I know, which is a sign of the times, right? Because
Yeah.
I wouldn't smoke a cigarette in anybody's room. I don't think ever.
No, right, but the
It's
house
always
is so
out-
full
gotta
of
be outside.
cigarette smoke
Yeah.
all the time, probably. That, they might not notice it. And even when they come in, they go, "Phoebe, you're smoking in here?" She goes, "Just a little bit."
A 10-year-old. You're asking a
He was
10-year-old.
like, "I just took one puff and put it
Yeah.
out." Well, don't do that again.
Right. Well, let's plan on jumping back to this and finish up this plot summary.
Okay, so he leaves. He decides to not run away and says, "I'm gonna go check out Mr. Antolini." Right? Calls Mr. Antolini, a former teacher.
Yeah, it's
Right.
like 2 in the morning.
It's like 2 in the morning, and he's not that. I think of him being like 30.
Yeah.
Right, so he's a young teacher, but when you're 16, 30 seems kind of old.
Right.
Goes in there, they just had a party, right? Because there was still like a mess in the house.
He has an older wife. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and they have a very nice conversation, and it's a very mature conversation. From
Although
Antolini.
Mr. Antolini is knocking him back.
right,
throughout.
right, yeah, totally knocking him back.
And
right.
then they lay out a bed for him, and he goes to sleep.
Well, on the couch.
On the
right?
couch.
Yeah, and then he's woken up by Mr. Antolini patting him on the head.
Yes, like sitting on the floor, watching him sleep, patting him on the head.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I would think that this would be something super memorable. I do not remember that scene.
No, me either. I mean,
I don't know why that. I
the
just blew
museum
by
was
that.
part of it, right?
Museum,
It
100%.
actually-
Phoebe, 100%.
It actually makes you reevaluate the entire book up to that point, because Holden says that he's had this kind of experience before. He's had other perverts like do things like this to him before, and that made me think, well, wait a minute, is this like the subtext of the whole book, that his introspection, his obsession, all these things is because he's been like abused by perverts?
Bunch of flitty guys.
Yeah, Flitty. That was interesting.
yeah. Yes. So he leaves. I gotta go get my suitcase.
Right.
I left it at the train station, and then he kind of just like sleeps in the lobby of the train station. Goes out and finds Phoebe.
Right.
At
And
the
she
carousel.
wants to leave with him.
Oh yeah, she's got her bag packed.
Yeah, she wants to go. So let's go. And then finally, I guess this is the, people talk about this as a coming of age book, and I guess here he finally grows up a little bit and says, no, you can't do that. You can't run away.
Right.
So
the other thing I remember, he goes to get Phoebe. This is the very end of the book. He goes in to give her a note, her school a note, to say, at lunchtime, come meet me for lunch.
Right.
Well, yeah. Can you imagine that? Like a 10-year-old in New York, you're allowed to leave for lunch.
Right.
Just because of a note.
Yeah, nowadays you're 18. You got to get permission from your parents to go down.
Take an aspirin.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And in the school, he sees an FU.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, those.
That's another
it's-
leitmotif in the.
Yes. So he sees this, and he's so pissed.
Yeah.
I wanted to kill that son of a bitch who would put that on. Imagine all these little kids walking along. This is part of his preservation of innocence theme that runs through the whole thing, and then sees another one at the museum.
Yeah.
Right. So the whole world is going to hell with people writing "fu" randomly, and he managed to scrub one of them off, and another one that he couldn't get off at the museum
Because it was scratched in.
Yeah. Right. So then
we find out he's in a mental institution.
And then we find out that you got these stupid psychoanalysts checking me out, and what is he? So how does this thing?
That was actually foreshadowed, the psychoanalyst stuff, because one of the characters early in the book, his father was a psychoanalyst.
Yeah, he goes, did he ever
Loose,
psychoanalyze you? He goes, well, I mean, he gave me some advice.
Was it loose?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was
okay,
loose.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
It wasn't that early in the book, but yeah.
So.
All right. So then at the he says, he reminisces about some people. He says, "Don't ever tell anybody anything.
Right.
If you do, you start missing everybody." And so he kind of almost regrets having told us this story about the days that leading up to him being committed. But it's so the first reference and the last reference are so lightly referenced that they don't overtly tell you that he's in a mental institution or but you can feel him cracking up.
Yes.
And
it is in a way a slow train wreck. I mean, the whole book is him slowly losing his mind and degenerating and becoming somebody who really ought to be in a mental institution.
Right. I got one more here about. I got my note here is you don't really know your own motivations. His dad is a lawyer, right? And Phoebe's saying, what are you going to do with your life? You're going to be a scientist? I'm no good at science. Well, like a lawyer, like Daddy. Lawyers are all right, I guess, but it doesn't appeal to me. I mean, they're all right if they go around saving innocent guys' lives all the time and stuff like that. And but you don't really do all that. All you do is make a lot of dough and play golf and play bridge and buy cars and drink martinis and look like a hotshot. And besides, even if you did go around saving guys' lives and all, you how would you know if you did it because you really wanted to save guys' lives, or because you did it because you really wanted to be known as a terrific lawyer with everybody slapping you on the back and congratulating you in court when every goddamn trial is over and reporters and everybody? Isn't that like the way it is in the movies? So it's like you don't even, and he's really grasped that, right? Like a person doesn't even the most altruistic person may really just want to be known as an altruistic person. Yeah,
but see, to me, that's a sign. That's another sign of he needs to grow up, because like everybody has mixed motives about everything, and you can't apply that kind of rigorous scrutiny to everything that you do and say, I'm helping this person.
It will drive you crazy, and I think that's kind of what we're leading up to.
Yes, because he was obsessive, and it does seem as if this kind of scrupulosity, this obsessive thinking everything through and evaluating your motives to the nth degree and all that, it does seem to be a type of disorder.
Yeah. But I'm going to defend here, Holden. I'm going to say, but adult world is freaking phony.
Yes.
It's phony as hell.
Of course.
Yep.
Yep. And to be able to see that and to be able to try everything you can not to walk through that door into that world is what Holden's trying to do, and it's almost commendable.
Well, yeah.
And I think that's why it has its power. That's why it was powerful at 18. That's why it's powerful at 26. That's why it's powerful at 59.
Well, this is my question. Is it still relatable as a middle-aged man? Is my question to us, and I would say there is a little Holden in all of us.
Yeah.
Right? 'Cause aren't you? How many times are you standing there with a bunch of depressing, boring phonies, and you're smiling and nodding and trying to do your best to have a good time and be polite and everything? Because that is what it means to be an adult, unfortunately.
Yes.
And Holden's just like afraid that that's how it's going to be. And guess what, Holden? Kind of is.
It is, right?
But
right.
Yeah, that is the way it is. But I don't shirk away from it. I think that yes, that is what it means to be an adult. What it means to be an adult is you think somebody's hat is ugly, but you don't say it.
Right.
What it means to be an adult is you do go. There is some phoniness. There is some covering things over. There is some smoothing things out, because in order to live in society with a bunch of other people, you can't always be speaking your mind. It doesn't work.
Yeah, but I think phony goes deeper than that. I think phony goes to the places. Playing golf is phony. Why are you doing it? Playing bridge is phony. Going and having drinks with your boss is phony. I think I think there is so much phoniness to it.
Yes, and you have to deny yourself the desire to identify all of that phoniness, because you would drive yourself crazy if every time you actually, if you had to psychoanalyze yourself, like, was that a fun and interesting conversation with my boss, or was I kissing ass?
Right.
Was I being a phony, or was I just trying to enjoy the, am I thinking about my career moves, or am I just trying to have a joke with a guy?
Yes, and you have to have that sort of awareness, but you can't take it to the extent that Holden is taking it.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the point of J.D. Salinger's of Catcher in the Rye, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the points.
Yeah.
Is you can't, because if not, you're going to end up in a mental asylum and you're not growing up.
Yes, right, but exactly.
And
it doesn't mean that he is wrong or that he is misjudging the situation. Maybe, in fact, he may be judging it better than you are.
That's right.
But you are. Mature enough to have to bury that shit down and not let it eat you alive, because that's how you end up, on a couch talking to a psychoanalyst.
And I think we could all look on movies and Friends or whatever and see, who was that guy that never grew up, or who grew up didn't grow up until his late 30s. And,
yes.
And you could see. Yeah, and look at it that way. I have a bunch of friends.
Were there things that that told you? What are some things that told you that it was 1951? I would say there's lots of smoking everywhere.
Right.
Nobody thought anything about,
Well, the price of
16-year-olds.
things. Yeah, the price of things.
And then, so how about this one? Well, the taxi cab situation. Well, don't get sore. I'm not sore. Right? People don't really use that term sore.
Some of the language was.
How about this?
Yeah.
Are you trying to chisel me?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was another one.
Flint.
Now was
Flitty, Flitty.
was phony something that was did Salinger popularize the term phony?
Yeah, I don't know if he overdid phony, but I mean, phony's still pretty solid. It's not like groovy, you know what I mean? Phony is still. How about? All right, let's wrap this up with the history of its controversial nature.
Yeah.
So
first of all, why is it controversial? It's controversial because it introduces a lot of adult themes.
Yeah.
Like why high school kids would be introduced to a lot of adult themes that a lot of people would think this is not appropriate.
And my understanding is that he did not expect this to be taught in high school.
Yeah.
He wrote this for adults.
Right. And then, yes, the swear words, which frankly were distracting. There was so much cussing in there.
And I would not, I guess because watching movies from the 50s, there's no cussing. I almost thought it was reflective of the culture that people didn't actually cuss. But I think it was just more reflective of, that Hollywood, censorship laws or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of FUs and GDs and
there's all kinds of bad language in there. I got really annoyed with "and all." It was like a filler word.
Yeah, like a tick, kind of an adolescent.
An adolescent tick.
Yeah.
And just for some reason, I got really, after about page 10, I was really sick of "and all." It showed up so many times. But so it's controversial because of the themes that are covered, and because of the language, and also because of what is it holding up? Is it holding up a model for a young person to apply themselves to try to grow up, to try to be responsible? No, it's like showing this model of somebody who's
It's very much in
showing
the face
the anxiety of which as an adult trying to raise an adolescent, you don't want to say, you want to reduce the anxiety, not expose it.
But and in 1950s popular culture, was about cool cars and cool dudes and sock hops and the soda fountains and this very much challenging all of that.
So one of our listeners, Pentamom, I asked this question. Do you think it should be in the curriculum?
Yeah.
And basically what I said was...
For high school?
Yeah. And so basically what I said was there's two things. One is the bad language and the topics that are covered and all the stuff we've discussed. But the second thing is, like, if you put one book in the curriculum, you're taking something else out. You can only have so many books in there.
Yeah.
So of the bazillion books that are out there, is this one of the ones that you want to make sure high school kids read?
Yeah, if there's only room for Great Gatsby or Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah,
I say Great Gatsby.
Yeah. So exactly. I mean, it's a fine book, and despite all of its misgivings, it's a reasonable book. Read it. But if I was designing a high school curriculum, I would not put this book.
No.
I'm going to defend it.
Okay.
I think there are 3 near perfect books in American literature. The Great Gatsby, Catcher in the Rye, and Huckleberry Finn. And this would have to be one of them. That would be I think that I think that everything that's in here needs to be in here. I don't think there's any unnecessary phrases or scenes or settings, whatever. And I think the deeper you go into it, the more you get out of it.
But I would say, I mean, I get that, but I would say that they have been exposed, or modern teens have been exposed to so many Holden Caulfield characters in their lives that it doesn't carry the weight for them. However, but it might be a kind of a gateway drug for kids disinclined to read.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I would say, maybe is something a little bit more relatable. I find that, you're not.
That's like the let them read comic books.
Yeah, it's like, right. It's like all right. This you're not going to say, oh, you enjoyed that book. Boy, do I have some Melville for you.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I don't know. You got through the whole book. That's a good start. You can do it, and this might be, easier than, more relatable than The Great Gatsby, and not as long as Huck Finn.
I mean, and at the end, sure, it has an adult themes on here, and high school kids these days are, in some ways, a heck of a lot more mature than I was, and otherwise are a heck of a lot immature. But
right.
I think that they can handle everything that's in this book, and I think that presenting that adolescence and saying, you're not the only one that's going through all this anxiety. Look at this guy did it in 1951. And I think that this is the best piece of art that expresses that.
Well, see, that's the argument that you're making that I have a little sympathy for, which is just the art of the book. And I agree with you that it's a well-written, interesting book from an artistic perspective. But I don't agree that teenagers need to be exposed to, okay, you have a bunch of angst, this guy has a bunch of angst too. I'm not sure that's the right way to deal with that kind of issue. If teenagers have a bunch of angst, you want to get them out of it, not get them deeper into it.
I'm almost in this. I mean, is this sort of the post-World War II Ulysses epic story of or the well, it is. It's the adolescent story. I don't know.
All right. Well, I would say if you're a middle-aged person who hasn't read it for 30 years and you're wondering does it still hold up, I would say yes.
Yeah.
I would say go ahead, read it again.
Yep.
On vacation to New York.
Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.